Hello, everyone. This is David Alfred Ostrowski, and in this recording, I'm going to be doing a super quick demo of Google Cloud BigQuery ML. So BigQuery ML is embedded machine learning routines directly called from your BigQuery SQL statement. So this allows you to cut out a step out of your ETL and run some really fast prediction models against potentially extremely large data sets. So all I'm going to do is run through from scratch, start to finish. I'm going to present all the code that I'm cut, paste in and out. That's going to be at an attachment at the bottom of the video. So maybe look out for that. You can run exactly the way I run it. So let's get started. I have the Google Cloud platform up and running, as you see here, and I'm logged in. So if you have a Gmail, then you can just go to cloud.google.com, do the same, basically the same thing. So I'm going to click up here, and as you can see right here, I'm logged in through my Google ID because I have a Gmail. So that's how I get started. So I'm going to press console here in the upper right, and it brings me to the console. I already have a project allocated, and you may not. Okay, so you'd have to go to click the upper left that I just did, do a select a project, and you'll want to pick new project. I'm not going to go through that because again, I already have one. And I'm going to choose this project that's already been allocated. And one thing that you have to do is make sure you have a billing account associated to be able to do any real work with a given project. So to do that, I'm going to go to billing. Fastest way for me is just to search on billing. And here it brought it up. Let me, excuse me, click out that. Okay, so I don't speed through the steps here. I have multiple billing accounts. I'm going to manage them. And you would have to go to the creation of account. Again, if you're starting one, I already have a few accounts, and it's not easy to delete projects or accounts and start from scratch. They're not immediately deleted. They're usually scheduled for deletion. So for that reason, I can't start from a completely wiped clean slate. So here I'm going to go for my projects. Now I've already allocated this account. I'm bringing this up the fact that I just went through a dry run. At the end of this, I'm going to do disable billing. And if I have the default is I have to set the best practice is to set my billings as disabled, as you see here. And in that case, I have to perform a change billing. So that's why I'm bringing this up here, because in most cases I would do a actions, change billing, highlight that, and then I would see that. But this is showing up, so that's all I need to know. So the next step is I'm going to need to grab the data set. In this case, I'm going to be using the Google prepared data that's already out there for us to use. So this is a great starting point. I found working with a lot of the Google examples. So let me bring this, I'm bringing it up on the other screen here. So I'm looking away a little bit. Here are my scripts, the SQL statements. And again, I'm going to be cut pasting those. So I'm going to search on Google Analytics sample. So this is what you do to pull in the data sets. So I can do it directly through the GUI interface. So I'm going to search for Google Analytics sample. Spelled it wrong. So there we go. And once I'm in Google Analytics sample, I just do a view data set, and that's going to make it accessible. And if you see here, it inadvertently brought up the BigQuery environment for me. And when you don't want to use that anymore, you can just search for BigQuery and it'll bring in the similar Explorer interface that you see here. And since my project's been allocated, the project here is set up. So here I need to create a data set. So let me do that. And I'm going to call it L's data set. So we'll need to remember that because I'm going to modify my scripts appropriately. I'm going to do a create data set. Everything else I'm going to default with regards to the location type and table expiration. View actions, good. So I have L's data set. This showed up here. So now I can, I have the Google Analytics sample. If you see down here, it's got a ton of the descriptions of the data sets. I'm going to click to the right of that, bring up a fresh new tab, and we're just going to take a look at the sample data set that we're going to use for these examples. You do a quick query. I'm going to dump that whole table, or at least some of it, to the to my interface here. So I put in my select statement. This is thinking over here on the right-hand side. When that shows up as green, then you're good to go. If you got some kind of errors, it's give me that green sign, the check mark, I'm good to go. So it syntax matched up and some of the initial checking that's being performed. Thing I've noticed with Google Cloud, it's not running as fast as I expected. So have a little patience. I'm going to scale down these data sets to add a level of brevity to this demonstration. I don't need to churn through a lot of data, though I can at petabyte levels with BigQuery, right? But this is good enough to get your feet wet, and then you can pull in your own data sets and explore them to truly play around with the data. Here we're just going through the basic mechanics. So here I have the schema, and it's huge. We have a ton of data that is associated with this. And I'm not going to go through all that. I'm just going to bring up another table, but I can access the whole purpose of that. I can access the data. So now I'm going to bring in, generate a model. And you have a lot of basic machine learning models here. I'm just going to do a quick logistic regression as the model type. And I'm going to set my data set name appropriate, L's data set. And I'm going to call this 22. And I didn't need that comma there. So let's wait for the check here, and it looks good to go. So let's run that model, see if we can generate that. It's going to go through that. You can see the query running in the upper right. You can use that to monitor it. And I cut down the dates on this model. So here it's complaining an internal error occurred. Let's just try it over. Okay. Looked like more of a glitch than, because I've run this model before, and I think that was it, because we're getting some performance statistics on the model and it came back. So you can see loss and duration, and it's still running here. Let's see if hopefully it'll complete successfully. Haven't seen that error before, so pretty optimistic that it's going to work appropriately for me. Still running, we can see that up here. Following this, I'm going to do a model evaluation, generate some performance statistics. For evaluating that model, again, we'll be interested in taking a slightly different data set. Here, I'm not going to take one of substance, just for more for just going through the mechanics of it. But obviously, if you're going to evaluate a model, you do a pull-out data set, you're not going to want to test the model with the same data that's used to create it, right? Because that would be cheating. So you'll want to employ good practices. Here, we're just interested in getting it up and running and just going through the basic mechanics and getting a feel for how this works. So you can see loss duration, learn rate, and there is more detail that you can find if you go through this and have an execution graph and some of the other information that's provided here. So let's proceed and let's go to the evaluation of the model now. So I brought up a new tab and I'm going to pull in the code for this. And again, it's Al's data set is what I chose it to be. And I believe I chose, maybe I used 22. Let's try that. Yep. And it gave me the indication right here. So we'll remember that for the next evaluation. So here I just did a really small data set. Basically looking at a month of data. Otherwise, again, we'd be sitting here watching this run. So I get precision, recall, accuracy. Obviously, my precision recall numbers are garbage, right? Because I don't have anything of any substance to run it against. Scale it up, that should change. Let me grab the name and model, and now I can do the final prediction here. And again, I'm going to bring in a new tab here. So I can go back, I could run through any of these and make adjustments as appropriate. So I got the model name right, I got the green go, and I have the sample model. Everything looks good. I'm not going to go through all the details of the model. I think you can pull that apart with the SQL. Here we just want to go through the basic employment of the machine learning capabilities. And there you go. So we have a prediction on the model and everything worked appropriately. So thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it and good luck with it. So as you see over to the left, there's a ton of data sets that may suit your interests a little bit better. And of course, you have more expansive machine learning models. To my experience, not as much as you see in other APIs, but again, for what it does, it really is impressive that it allows me to step in with a super large data set potentially and generate a machine learning model, look at some of the basic performance statistics. So this is a great tool to prototype ideas against extremely large data sets. Thanks again. Take care. Thank you for listening.